All right, here with Sommer McCartney, head coach since 2011 at Saddleback College, but was an assistant for 10 years prior to taking over. Associate professor in kinesiology. One of our coaches of the year this year, but Saddleback was 34-17 and won the 3C 2A championship, which is extremely hard to do out there in California. So congrats.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, I like the rebranding of the 3C 2A, by the way, because I always had a hard time going CCCAA.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you.
Whose idea was that?
I have no idea. That's way above me. Yeah.
Because every year I'm trying to spit out CCCAA. I always had to remind myself of how that worked.
I think even on our campus, like buildings, everything's abbreviated now, and
yep.
I don't even know. Yeah, some of the names of places. Yeah.
Hey, did you feel like coming out of the fall that you guys had a chance?
No, not at all.
So at what point during the spring did you think, okay, we're starting to get things rolling where we may have a chance at this? I know it's really hard to win your guys' championship.
Yeah. Honestly, I was just hoping to be in the top 4 in our conference and make it to the playoffs. That's our goal every year, is to play in May. In California, is just to play in May and see what happens. And because last year we made it to the final day and we were banged up. We lost 6 pitchers and we got pummeled, by a team in our conference. We were just out. And then I had no idea with, I think we had 4 or 5 freshmen starting that we were going to get back to that level. We really kind of picked it up in the playoffs. We kind of got hot and guys started playing to win instead of playing for individuality, and for their individual stats and stuff. And something clicked in the playoffs for us.
Well, yeah, because you won 9 out of your last 10, correct?
Correct, yeah.
I mean, how hard is that at the junior college level? You're trying to get guys to placed, so that is important how they play, but obviously it's important how the team plays. Way more important how the team plays.
Yeah, I think, it's challenging. It's challenging to establish and build chemistry and to build the culture that you want every year, because it's changing. So, every year it's a different group. And I rely heavy on my sophomores, the guys that return, and hopefully they can kind of be an extension of the coaching staff and help kind of keep that culture going. This last year we were fortunate, JC Allen, who's going to UC San Diego. I mean, he was a great leader. Awesome kid, and in our center fielder, Makani Tanaka, and Ben Costelli, we had some really good sophomore leadership. That was big for us.
But it looks like you have a good mix of freshmen too, though. I mean, it looked on both sides, pitching and hitting. It looked like you had a really good mix of freshmen in there too, though.
We did. You're right. Yeah, some freshmen really stepped up, and we needed it. We had, how you have a revolving door in a position until someone wins it. We had that in left. We had it at first. We in right, and guys stepped up. So we definitely had some freshmen step up too, and on the mound. Yeah.
Is this a standard year slugging percentage? It looked like you guys had a lot of extra base hits, which that's the thing I always look at with California schools. Like, everybody talks about West Coast baseball, stolen bases, action, but it looked like you guys had a lot of extra base hits.
I don't know. I feel like our offensive numbers the last couple of years were better. I think we might even be more talented the last couple of years, but these guys just found a way to get it done.
Did you switch anything offensively as far as teaching or how you're doing anything in practice from an offensive standpoint?
No, not really.
Just talent-wise?
We maybe sack bunted a little bit more often, which the whole West Coast thing, like you just mentioned, like we want to develop hitters. And there were times where we weren't sure we were going to hit, so we had to try to manufacture something. Yeah, for sure. So we did that a little bit more. We didn't have great team speed, so we had to hit and run at times and sack bunt a little bit more than I have in the past.
When do you get to that point as a coach where you're kind of rolling in the season and we probably K in a situation we shouldn't, and then you're like, okay, we need to probably start sacking a little bit more?
Yeah, it's tough because our preseason, we do so well. Our whole conference does well in preseason. You play everybody out of conference, and we were doing pretty well. And And then you get in a conference and you start seeing better pitching, and you're like, ooh, okay, we got to start to manufacture something against this guy. So, pretty much in conference. I mean, we work on it all the time, year round, but you never, it's different when you have to apply it, right? And execute. So, definitely in conference, it's different. Yeah.
Do you address that with your guys with the orange umpire? I mean, do you say, what's that balance of, okay, pre-conference is over, we're heading into the conference, but how do you kind of balance that where, okay, this is going to be more challenging without maybe intimidating your players on who you're playing?
Yeah. Well, I try to do that by playing the toughest preseason conference, non-conference we can. I mean, Cuesta is always competitive. We go up to play College of the Canyons. We just, we go to Sequoia. We try to play some road games too and get them, be on a bus for 2 or 3 hours, then go play. But I'm forgetting some schools too. But we try to play a tough competitive schedule where you're playing multiple days in a row on the road, just to prepare for conference. But and you warn kids, but you know how it is. Like, oh, you're old, coach, and we got it all figured out. I was a high school all-star, and then they get there and they're over the next 10, and you get humbled a little bit, I think.
Through experience, you have freshmen and you rely on freshmen, but how are you kind of prepping those guys to get ready because they haven't been with you, they haven't been through your guys' season? How do you prep those guys in the fall to get ready for the spring?
Yeah, we try to put them in really competitive situations of practice, and we try to maintain a level of expectation of what we want in practice, and even in BP and inter squads. We talk, even when we win, we talk about, like the freebies we gave up and some of the things that we didn't do correctly execution wise. Even in games that we win, you just kind of try to think big picture wise, like how is this going to help us get to May and so forth.
Do you talk to them after the game or you wait?
We after the game. Yeah. And sometimes it's maybe even the next day, when you get a chance to kind of digest everything. But, when you talk, it's after the game, but sometimes waiting a day is good as well.
When you say in the fall competitively, give some examples of competitive things that you're putting them through besides game stuff.
Well, even when we enter squad, I mean, there's going to be a consequence for the losers. Inter squads can get old, right? We've all done it, and the guys are, it's hard to get up sometimes to play, against someone that you practice with every day. But you put some things on the line, whether it's conditioning or who's got weeds that day or who's gonna, clean the batting cages or clean the dirt off the outfield fence. So you kind of we do a med ball keg relay too. It's not super difficult, but it's
how heavy is the med ball?
They go from like 12 to 20 pounds, and they're like really bouncy, and they have to do a keg toss with a partner, and it can't bounce more than once. And so it's just something that, there's some kind of consequence. I think that's good.
We usually did three teams, and even the pitchers that weren't hot that day, they were assigned a team also.
Same. We do the same thing.
Because it was usually the winner got to go home. Second team had to clean up and do this, and then there's probably some sort of conditioning for the last team for last place. So
no, you're right. You have to do something just to keep it competitive. Yeah.
And then on the mound, you all had 18 saves. I counted it. You were 14-8 in 1 and 2 run games, and it looked like it was towards the middle to end where you're starting to win some of those close games. What do you attribute that to?
I think some of our relievers started getting some confidence. I really think that, we didn't return much on the mound, and we had a couple kids really step up, uh, mid relief and back end guys and they started developing some confidence. I think JP Glasscock, our pitching coach, did a great job with these guys as well. But I think they started getting confidence, and they knew that we believed them, and we kept giving them the ball, and they started executing and making pitches. Yeah, I really think the confidence is a big part of that.
And that's another art of coaching with your young pitchers, especially, is sometimes you just got to keep throwing them out there.
Yes, and kind of look at how the outing went, like where did things kind of go awry, so to speak, and then what could we have done differently? What was your mindset? A lot of it's so mental, right? I mean, this game is so tough mentally. But then the big thing for us too is our freshman Jack Wade. We were struggling for that third starter, and Jack pitches against Riverside, who's really good, talented. They're always good, and comes out and throws. I think he went 5 solid innings against them, and I was like, wow, that was huge. A freshman lefty. And I love the junior college level because people develop. Like, you get some of these teenage kids, and they get so much stronger in that year or so. And Jack was like a 82 to 83 lefty, and heck, by the springtime he was 86 to 88. And he's just gotten stronger, and it's seeing that development is why I coach at this level. I just love that growth.
And it seems like with West Coast hitters, they're so disciplined with count to count that you have to be able to pitch backwards out there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we did a lot of that. We had maybe one guy that threw 90 plus, and everyone, we had to kind of pitch backwards. We had to be creative and hopefully catch some hard hit balls that, some atom balls. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we were kind of deceptive, or try to be deceptive at times, and just throw strikes. Right?
I just think there's a place for it now. I mean, you look at how much people are chasing velocity. I think if there's still a place with it, as hard as guys are throwing now, I still think there's a place for the 3-pitch mix guy or 4-pitch mix guy that maybe doesn't have present velocity but can mix 4 pitches and give the hitter 4 pitches or 3 pitches to think about. I still think there's value for those guys because guys are throwing so much harder now.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it's the social media thing and who's their PR. It's like these guys are crow hopping and Hunter. It's like all that stuff, and it's all about velocity and spin rate, and they forgot, like, we have technology, and sometimes you don't want to use it because it's like, okay, great, you can't throw strikes though, but your spin rate is this, and you can't get somebody out. And so sometimes we use some of that, stuff in the fall, but
for me, that's the right time for it. Like the fall, and then once fall ball's done, I think it's like with overload, underload training with hitters, I think there's a time and a place for all of that stuff. But as you get closer to competing, that stuff needs to taper off. And now it's, okay, how are we going to get guys out, or how I'm going to execute offensively? Yes. I think once you get closer to competition, you have to taper that stuff off.
I totally agree. Yeah, it's like, all right, how are you going to get this guy out? For sure.
You talked about JP. How long have your assistants been with you?
Well, it's funny you say that because, or you ask, because JP was with us until COVID, and then, no one knew what was going to happen with COVID, right? And then he left. He took a job working in a rehab facility with pro guys and so forth, and because he knew he had a job there. We weren't even sure we were going to play, and just like everybody else across the country. And then he came back in this year, basically. 23 came around. He's like, hey, I really miss being on the field. Some of these guys, these pro guys, don't really want to listen how we can help them stay healthy anyway. And I really want to get back to teaching and developing. And so, and we're close. Like, he's a guy from Kansas, but we just became instant friends and good friends. And so to bring him back, and he's really big on developing and teaching, and which I think you have to be at our level, because we don't get the blue chip guys. We get kids that we have to kind of mold into something and develop. And so anyway, it was a no-brainer hiring him back. So I think this is year, minus those COVID years, but I think this is like year 6 or 7 with JP. And I've had 3 other assistant coaches after this year kind of move on to different things. It's expensive where we are, and for the few $1,000s of stipend money that I have, it's hard to keep people around.
I think that's a newer generation of coaches too. And, my kids are young. I've got a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old. I think it's with the newer generation where it's harder and harder to get that generation maybe to see value in maybe not getting paid as much in the beginning. You're going to reap the rewards on the back end of it. I think that's been a little bit of a switch here over the last 5-6 years with the newer generation of maybe not seeing value, where we need to probably train people a little bit better that, I don't want someone to have to do what I did to get into it, but there is a way in, and sometimes the sacrifices are a lot in the beginning financially, but you're going to reap the benefits of it later on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I remember my first year, I just got released from the Marlins back in the day, and I was working at Saddleback for $1,000. I got paid $1,000 for the whole entire year, and that was in 7 or 98. And it's like, my wife said, "What are you doing, for $1,000?" And, but yeah, it's just so expensive where we live too. Like, how do you afford to live off $7,500? You know what I mean? It's,
Hey, what were you doing to supplement your income back then for $1,000?
I was doing camps and doing lessons. Yeah. Which, now there's so much liability and stuff like that. But I found a place with lights, and I was doing lessons till 10 o'clock at night, and, it was a grind. But looking back, and everyone told me, "Oh, you'll never get a JC job," and this and that. And, things happen.
There are good jobs out there. California JC jobs are good jobs because y'all teach.
They're good jobs, and
because y'all teach.
You get the state pension, and you teach kinesiology, whatever your subject is, and I've been very fortunate for sure.
Was there much adversity for you all? I mean, you got it going late, but beginning of the year, was there much adversity for you all?
No, not necessarily. Like we stayed pretty healthy.
That's a big one, because that's what you said the year before you were banged up. I think that's a key to every good season, is keeping everybody healthy.
Yes, we were healthy. We stayed healthy, and that was in the year before. Again, I think we were more talented, but we weren't healthy. And I really think it was weird. Like, even our bench players, it just seemed like it wasn't about the winning. And sometimes with junior college, you get a kid for a year or two, and it's all about, I want to get my stats, I want to get my numbers so I can move on, and that's the goal. But we want to win while you're there. Like, and how do we get kids to buy into being part of, a good teammate and being part of chemistry and winning and stuff like that. And everybody wants winners in their programs. And so getting that message across, I don't know, it just clicked late for us. I remember the last series of our conference, we're playing Irvine Valley, who's, they had some struggles this year, but they're still a scrappy team, and we're sister schools, so they want to beat us, badly. And I'm looking, we're in a close game. I'm looking down the dugout, and it's like, man, there just wasn't a lot of juice. There wasn't a lot of energy. And it's like, what are we doing? Yeah. And then something clicked, and we just kind of started playing for each other than ourselves. So,
and I never coached junior college, but it's almost like you have to tell them, hey, I know your performance is important and your numbers are important, but if you want to go to a 4-year school, the team component and chemistry component is going to be important. And if you don't do it now, you're going to get smacked in the face by it when you go to a 4-year school.
Without a doubt. We try to get that message across. Like, plus when you win, you're playing longer and more people are seeing you. We had a couple guys sign late, and okay, well, he's on a winning program. He's on a winning team. And so what's going on there? And so it's great for the players too. Like, winning is important. Like I said, people want winners. So,
how are the teams in the Final Four?
They were good. It's tough. I'm a Northern California guy, and I grew up playing. West Valley was in our conference. I went to San Jose City, and West Valley was in our conference, and, beautiful area. I got recruited to go there or San Jose City, and And West Valley was, man, it's in the foothills. It's beautiful. And then Stockton, Delta. I mean, I faced Eddie Gordado twice, and that guy shoved it against us. He was nasty, lefty throwing mid-90s back in the day. So they were good too at Delta back in the day. So they were in our same conference. So playing those two schools who obviously different coaches and all, and they had great programs, but it was neat playing a couple of NorCal schools that I was familiar with. And then obviously Santa Ana, I mean, they were a well-balanced team too. And they've been, Tom's done a good job at Santa Ana over the years as well. So I knew it was going to be a tough competition for sure. It was nice having it in Southern
because how far is that for you?
Yeah, it was like an hour.
Perfect.
An hour away. Yeah.
Will they keep rotating the site?
I think so. It's tough because it's not a really revenue generating venture, right? And so I think Mount Sac did a great job last year. Their campus is, and I think they have 50,000 students. Their campus is amazing. Where we had our banquet was first class building, and the facility was great. Yeah, the whole coaching staff, and they did a great job hosting, and it was nice to be closer to home too.
They host area code stuff at Mount Sac?
I believe so. I think they have.
They have, haven't they? Because that's back when I was at Iowa. Yeah. I could never get there. I would always be in San Diego, but all the California coaches are like, hey, you need to stay an extra week and go up to Mount Sac for the tryouts. And it might be for the California games too.
Yeah, John Knott, he's the head coach. He does a great job. The facility is first class, and he worked really hard that whole Final Four, and yeah, they did a good job. And their whole athletic staff, yeah.
You all start so early playing, which is good because you don't need as many arms because you can spread the games out. But how are you making sure your arms are ready when they get back from break?
Yeah, so we don't even so we start school on Monday, August 19th, and we just lift the first 2 weeks of school. We don't practice. We practice after Labor Day. I'm just trying to get them in all the classes and get used to the whole routine and start lifting. We do fitness assessment testing and so forth, just to see what kind of shape they're in. And
what are your fitness assessments?
So broad jump, we test that. We test body fat percentage. We do a 30-yard sprint burst, grip strength. So Travis, one of my former players, does our programming now, and now he's got these fancy force plates, and so we're moving up in technology. But I just think it's good to have bench line. What I've always done fitness testing, and I think when you get guys invested and they start to see gains, especially freshmen, incoming kids, and they see like, oh, I'm putting weight on, I'm gaining muscle mass, my body fat's going down. I think it gets them to buy into the whole weight room thing, and that's my experience. And so that's what we do. Yeah.
I mean, what are some baselines for those assessments where they're red flags where maybe we need to hold a kid out for a little bit? Or are there any?
Yeah, there's not some red flag. I mean, but definitely body fat percentage, right? If you're kind of on that borderline where you're real heavy, it's like, man, we got to lean you up and maybe it's not to really it's maybe to develop that awareness, like, hey, we can just think if we can get you moving better and your range of motion's better and you can be a better defender and so forth. So it's kind of like an education as well. So, yeah. And then the strength, I mean, I think when you're getting an 18-year-old kid and in a lot of high school programs, they're not lifting, not all of them lift out here. And so you start seeing some gains. I just think that creates that culture where guys start buying in, and then you have good practice, you're trying to build that culture, but then the weight room culture is competitive and you're kind of feeding that same kind of continuity between your program or in your program. So
you all lift after practice? You lift
we
after?
Lift before.
You lift before. What time do y'all lift before?
So we have two options. Our pitchers and catchers typically come in the morning, like 7:30. And then we have position players at 12. We'll have some pitchers that lift at 12, and we'll have some position players that want to lift in the morning. I know some programs, they want to lift like 5:30 or 6 in the morning. And I know, and I remember doing it myself when I was in junior college. It was like,
I'm glad we never did. We did after practice. I was so glad.
Yeah.
I think from an academic standpoint, Evansville was a really hard academic school that I think, my dad and brother were like, let them get their stuff taken care of during the day and then lift after practice. I know there's varying views on that, but I always liked going after. I know some coaches are like, well, you're going to hold back during practice. I never felt like I held anything back. I would lift after games sometimes too, which is more of I think a pro ball mentality a little bit, but I think even those guys are lifting before games now, just talking to them now.
We did.
To each his own. I'm with you. I think they've got to get their rest and recovery in at some point.
Yes.
And I think you need to bunch it up. I worry about the injury piece of that, and also hard on the classroom on them with not getting sleep. You'd like to think that every one of your college athletes is going to get to bed early, but as we know with 18 to 23-year-olds, the likelihood of them getting to bed before midnight is not good.
No, I agree. And then you start looking at, I remember lifting at 6 a.m. and having like nightmares if I was going to be late, because if you're late, you had like Woody's running school, like your practice, you're on the warning track, and it's like, okay, we'll see you in like 3 hours, and I was so deathly afraid of being late, and I'd wake up at like 3 a.m. Look at the clock, and it's so funny. So then I started looking, okay, so what's our goal? Why are we lifting? We were trying to improve performance, right? Keep guys healthy, stronger, keep them out of the training room. And so let's lift later, and so that's what we do. We want to improve performance, and this is not about discipline, about getting up early. I want to, so it's worked out well.
We would do, like if we weren't practicing yet, we would do it every once in a while, Friday mornings. We would go Friday mornings, and those were more team building things because we did stuff with the ROTC program.
Oh, okay.
And it was more fun team building stuff. It was hard, like the stuff we had them do. I called it Slow Jam Fridays as kind of a oxymoron, Slow Jam Friday. But it was very cool to be out there with the ROTC program on a Friday morning before we started team practice. Very fun. We did some fun stuff.
Again, team building, right?
Yes.
I mean, you're trying
that was relaying and asking the players if it was good. Asking our older players post-fall, post-spring, hey, what was some of your favorite things we did, and what were maybe some things that we need to change to improve upon? But to a person, the older guys always said the Friday morning stuff was great from a team-building component.
Yeah, that's good. We still do Olympics at the end of fall. I know a lot of D1 schools, they post on social media and stuff, but we've done that since I've been the head coach, and again, it's something fun. The
event's still the same? You still have the same events?
No, I changed some depending on what facilities are available to us. But we still.
What are your main events for the Olympics?
Dodgeball is definitely one.
I love it. That was one we never did. I wish we would have.
Oh man, like dodgeball. It's hilarious. And then some of these guys, they talk mad game about how good at basketball they are, and then you watch them. We don't play 3-on-3 or 5-on-5 or anything because I'm afraid guys are going to get hurt. But just watching them shoot a basketball, you're like, oh my gosh, like there's no way you play basketball. And so we do dodgeball, we do some basketball, we kick field goals. We have a bunch of turf on our campus, so we'll golf, see who can actually hit a golf ball. We push a car for like a bobsled, like a time. We'll push. One of my assistant coaches had a Mini Cooper, and we used to push that for time. You
got two teams when you're doing this with the Olympics?
We have 8 teams.
So you have 8 teams.
Yeah,
8 teams around 4-ish. It looked like you had about 33 on your roster, so it's about 8 teams.
Well, in the fall we have a little bit bigger group.
Okay,
and so it's at the end of fall we do this, and so usually it's like either 6 teams of 8 or 6 teams of 6. It depends on what we have at the end of fall, but it's just good. They have their own team name, own uniform or costume or whatever. Yeah, I just think.
Have you ever seen Golden Rule? Have you ever seen Golden Rule basketball?
No.
We did this at Evansville. My dad was an ex-Marine, so
Okay.
Golden Rule basketball is 2 teams. You could score, no dribbling. If you took 3 steps, you had to pass. So you got 3 steps to pass. It was almost like, what's the Frisbee game?
Ultimate Frisbee.
It's almost got some Ultimate Frisbee. This was way before Ultimate Frisbee was around. So you couldn't score until your whole team was past half court. So 3 steps, get rid of it, and then there was no fouls. No blood, no foul. So you can imagine what type of environment that created during that little segment when there was no fouls unless you drew blood.
Oh my gosh.
Which you probably can't do that now. But
yeah, right.
And the reason I was asking too about the arms is, you guys start in January. How are you able to get them ready? You start early. When do you guys stop for school in December?
So we stop. See, finals are like mid-December.
So are they starting to go on their bullpens at that point?
Yeah, we'll continue because our fall ends like November. I don't know the exact date. It's like November 19th.
Because you start later with them going, so that's how you kind of bunch it. You don't start as early, so then you kind of just roll straight through from when you start to the end of the year.
Yeah, and then we do like a little I used to call it gauchos. We're not the gauchos anymore. We're the Bobcats, but we do like a little World Series after Thanksgiving, and then when our class ends, and then we have final. We do our Olympics, and then we have our final exams, and then we'll have a throwing program over the break, and then we start. We have an early start class, so we start like January 3rd, and we just start bullpens and kind of because our first game is last year I think it was January 25th.
Yeah, that's what I saw. Yeah, early.
Yeah, it's like dang early, and you are everyone's you're on a pitch count. We still use pitch counts. I know some people don't. Guys are, but I really worry about keeping guys healthy. Yeah. And who knows, right? I mean, no one really knows how to keep an arm healthy.
I've got my thoughts on it. I did a clinic for USA Baseball yesterday, and one of the pitching guys we were talking. I have my thoughts on that. I think general conditioning has been taken away a little bit. I'm not a proponent of long distance running, but I think for some guys they need it. I think the limited pitch counts for starters has really hurt them. I think we've turned them into relievers that are going every 4 days and trying to air it out because they know they may only throw 50 or 60 pitches as a starter. And I think if a guy knew he had to get 7 or 8 or 9 innings, I think he's going to maximize his effort a little bit better because he knows he's going to have to throw 110, 120, and not right out of the chute. But I mean, realistically, in the old days, a big league starter was going to at least get you 85 pitches out of the gate. And then by the end, when they were built up, now these are older guys. I always put a caveat on this for youth coaches listening in. This is not for you. This is for the pro coaches and the college coaches. But I think once a guy is built up and you get past middle of the season, I think you can stretch them out to 110, 120 if they're cruising, if they're struggling. And I think we've always known that if a guy's struggling, then you need to get him out. But if a guy is cruising, you need to find out what they're capable of doing. Like I think we have completely taken away starting pitchers being able to test their limits and push through and see who they actually can be by the way it's set up now. I think we've taken that away, which is I think why we're getting guys injured now too. Yeah, we kind of start out. Because it's so early in January, we have a pitch count. We're just trying to we want them to peak in May, and so we kind of keep ramping up a little each week. But yeah, it's a tough one. There's those increments. So say a guy goes out, gives you 60 the first time out. Yeah. You trying to get him to 70 or 75 next time out. So 10 to 15 pitch increments. That's roughly, the same thing with bullpens for guys that don't start early. And this is a great advice for our youth coaches out there too, and travel coaches. They get into a tournament first game of the year and the pitch limit's 100. 12-year-old kid shouldn't be throwing 100 pitches ever. But, your first time out of the chute for a youth kid, should be 30 or 40, maybe tops, 2-3 innings tops for a youth kid.
Yeah, and I mean, our guys are 18, 19, and sometimes they're 20, but yeah, they're younger guys too, and you just kind of, like I say, we want to play in May. We want to make the playoffs, and so we want our guys to be healthy. And even the year before, we had some pitcher injuries. It was like random weird stuff. Yeah, a kid dropped a plate in the weight room on his foot, and broke his foot, and then. A kid had a bad bullpen and lost a fight with a porta potty, and like punched a porta potty and broke his hand. It's like just weird, stupid stuff.
Because it does look like you use the majority of your staff on the mound.
I mean, last year we had 11 guys last year. Yeah,
which is great for what, 3 games a week usually for you all out there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really good for 11 arms with 3 games a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. It was kind of nice having us. I think we had 29 or 28 total on our roster. It was kind of nice having that smaller group. But again, we stayed healthy. We got lucky. I think you have to be lucky too for playoffs. You just have to be fortunate.
Hey, what was the switch from Gauchos to Bobcats?
Oh boy. Supposedly, the Gaucho is it's a South American cowboy. Right. And that's what a gaucho is. And so apparently there were groups that felt it was offensive. Meanwhile, we had our equipment manager. His dad was a gaucho and was proud of his dad. His dad was a cowboy. He worked in the hills in California,
and there are still some schools that are using the mascot.
Yeah. You see Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
I think Glendale. Yeah. I think Glendale in Arizona, I think. I don't know. It's just one of those things. And, honestly, where we've been with COVID, I'm just glad. I'll be whatever you want to call me.
It seemed like you all took it the worst. I interviewed a couple California JUCO coaches the last 3-4 years, and it just seemed like you guys, the stipulations for you all were way more strict than what everybody else was dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't really get a chance to compare everybody. I just, yeah, it is what it is.
You said you have a league for your incoming freshmen.
Yes.
How long have you done that?
Since even when I was an assistant coach, we would do.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's important. So it's like Connie Mack or Palomino. It's like 18 under. A lot of these guys graduated 18.
Well, because there's not a lot of options for kids anymore. That summer before they're going into their freshman year, there's not a ton of options anymore for kids because the travel teams pretty much have not given up, but usually 17U is what you're going to see, 17 and maybe 18U, but not much. But that's a phenomenal idea.
Yeah, I love it. It's wood bat. We play 9-inning games. We play on our field. My assistant coaches run the team, but it's a chance and I just come and watch and help out. I'm like their assistant coach, and I think it's good to get to know the incoming guys, and I don't know, and it's for these kids that maybe played against each other, but now they're playing together, and I think it's good. Back to the chemistry and building your program. I like it. Yeah, I'm working over the summer too. Whatever. We had 1 week off before it started. Who cares? I mean, that's my job, and it's still fun to be on the field. And it's a new group, so it's new people to get to know and new personalities. So we play like 12 games, and
that's
it's wood bat. So
12 is perfect too.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
And there's not a lot of offense because it's wood bat. These guys don't know how to hit, swing with wood. So, but it's a good,
They provide their own wood bats. You got composite bats for them.
Yeah, no,
you don't have a couple bomb bats laying around for them.
Yeah, we do have a couple old, like whatever they are. Synthetic. I think who else makes them? I think they all kind of
Brett brothers used to make one back in the day too. I don't think they do anymore, but that's what we used for overload underload training was the Brett bats.
Yeah, so the bomb bats are great. One year in pro ball we used them. In short season, I don't know if they still do that, but anyway, so it's been good. I really appreciate the summertime, and it's not about winning or losing. It's just kind of fun just to Yeah.
Well, with
Low
your
stress.
assistants doing it too, obviously there's a lot of coaching going on with it.
Yes. Yeah. And then we keep the cost down too, because club ball is so expensive, and so I just think it's been good for us. Yeah.
And then you've been running the summer baseball class then too that long?
Yes. Yeah. Summer baseball class. That's when we do our tryouts.
That's unbelievable to me, like in such a good way. Like for those kids, they're getting the on-field stuff, but they're also getting the classroom component of it as well, which I don't know anybody in the country that's doing it that way, which is perfect to bring your incoming guys in to do that, to take classes, then also get on the field too and do both.
Yeah. Yeah. We get a chance to kind of introduce our base running kind of system that we do, and you kind of get some of those, get to make some adjustments, and because you recruit a kid and you see him from behind a chain link fence or whatever, and then now you get a chance to actually get to work with them, which is kind of cool, and get to kind of pick their brain on what their approach is, and sometimes they don't even have one, but it's the summer. I enjoy the summer. I mean, you're working, but I enjoy it. Yeah.
You signed as a catcher coming out of college?
I did.
You let your catchers call the game?
Sometimes. Yeah,
Sophomores.
I've had some good catchers. Yeah. So the fall, we use the fall to develop that part. Again, in the fall in California, we get 10 scrimmage dates, and against, to play other schools and so forth. And so we use the fall to kind of see what they can do. And then after the inning, what were you thinking this count, 2-2 count, why'd you throw his third best pitch? And now it's 3-2, and guess what he's going to get, And so we kind of just develop that thought process. And then if guys show they can do it in the fall, then we just keep it going in the spring. We have the coach calm and the earpiece and all that stuff too. But yeah, we've had some smart catchers that I trust them and just let them go. Yeah.
How are you getting freshman catchers' arms acclimated in the fall? Because this is probably the first time they've ever thrown that much. How are you getting them acclimated to throwing?
Boy, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. We don't really do anything different. We obviously play catch every day.
You have them throw the bases every day? They throw the bases every day?
No, we don't do that. I kind of manage their throwing, kind of like pitchers. Like not every day is max effort day. So I guess we do. I never really thought of it though.
You have them put a ball in the bucket for bullpens?
No, we throw.
I've seen. I mean, that was one thing too. Like to obviously the pitchers didn't always enjoy it. Yeah, because they want the same ball back. But if you're trying to limit their throws back on that, just put the ball in the bucket.
Yeah, I mean, 60 feet, they can level. Come on.
I know, but they're also decelerating on some of those throws, which ain't great for the throwback on the deceleration piece.
But yeah, we throw it back. But we also have a lot of our catchers, a lot of our guys pick JP's brain, our pitching coach, who's really good with arm care. And we get a lot of guys in arm care programs.
All of our position players were on arm care stuff through my entire career, because we did arm care when I was a position player. Pretty much all the way through my entire career playing, we did arm care, even position players. So it was just, I was just used to it. So I always had our position players do arm care.
That's good.
It worked.
We did.
I mean, it worked. Yeah. Like they were never sore. I get that first week and a half of when you get into it, you might be a little tender, but once they got through that first initial phase, they were fine because they were doing arm care just like the pitchers are doing arm care. Yeah,
that's good. I'm older than you, I think, but I don't. Yeah, we didn't even growing up. There were some bands that came out and surgical tubing.
We did partner. I showed this to the youth coaches yesterday. We did partner resistance arm exercises because you might see a weighted tennis can around. Like back in the old days, you might see a can. So all of our arm care stuff was with partners. It was PNF stretching. So basically it was partner assisted resistance with the different arm motions. And then what we called Maytags, where guys laying on the back and the guys standing over them, and you're making small circles just to get some blood flow going to the rotator cuff. Like, just easy stuff. It doesn't have to be a lot. I think some of it's too much now for guys.
Yeah, some of it is.
And not getting the body warmed up. I think pitchers now have taken it to where I don't need to get my body warmed up. I think this is why we're getting injuries also, is they're not getting their body warmed up. They're not getting blood flow into their arm. They may be doing some band work and some plyo throws, but their body's not warmed up. And I think that's where we're starting to get some micro tear injuries that lead to bigger issues because they're not getting their body warmed up before they get into their arm care stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you look at the trunk and how important that is, and the hip rotation and throwing a ball. No, I could see that. When I was in junior college, we Dr. Jobs just came out with some exercises. This is like
the throwers
early 90s.
10. The throwers
10. And like the arm circles, and we just started kind of doing that. But even then, we're getting more and more players. Like, again, it would be great, like you said, to get your whole team doing it. But I don't force it on them. But we are getting a lot of position players doing pre and post recovery stuff too.
I just never liked being sore. So and I think all guys are that way. Like I think the more of that stuff, you can eliminate a lot of the general soreness you have the next day. And once a guy figures out that, okay, if I do all this stuff, I'm not going to be sore. I think that's where you get them on that, because nobody likes being sore.
No, you're right.
What about the different catching styles?
Man, I know that one knee is tough. I was never a one knee guy. Anytime you fell your knees, it was either to block a ball or you're lazy, and I've had some catchers that could do it really well. The tough thing at our level, like, our pitchers don't throw a lot of strikes, like, this is junior college, and then they, you call for a pitch inside, they throw it outside, and vice versa. And not that they're trying to throw strikes. It's just, and so I always liked being knees up so that you can sway, you can move side to side and still steal strikes that are maybe a ball or two off the plate. And I think when you're on a knee, you can steal the down pitch, but you're kind of stuck. You're not super mobile. But
those guys at that level are freakish athletes too. Like, that's the thing. Like, they make a lot of that stuff look way easier than it actually is, just because they're so athletic.
The big league guys you're talking?
Yes, I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, and
guys.
Their arms.
And by the way, there's an article that came out said there's been less wild pitches and pass balls since this has been in place, since they've been tracking the data. There's actually been less, but you're also dealing with way different athletes, and you're also dealing with pitchers that have way better command too.
Yeah,
like that's the big caveat of all that.
Yeah. So if I have a catcher that can't block well, then we gotta get you off your knees. We gotta get you. But the last couple of years, I've had the last 3 years we've had catchers they're pretty mobile and they can do it. Yep. So I don't personally love it, but I think
whatever works.
I'm trying to go in, like, not be that old school guy.
Whatever works. If it works, like, if you can receive and block and do all the things you need to do down there, go do it. Because I do think it opens up more strikes to the low pitch. Just from a umpire's view, I think you do get a lot more strikes down there. So if a guy can do it, I think it does help. I would kind of missed all that. I got out of coaching before all that. It was just kind of the initial of it. And we did have one catcher at Western Illinois that was really good at it, so I let him do it. But he was an older guy and had great feel. But it would have been interesting to see if I stayed in it another year or two to see how I would have handled it. But again, if you can do it, whatever, just like hitting, pitching, whatever, if you can do it with the way you're doing it, do it.
Exactly. Who am I to say? You know what I mean? Because I played a few years of A-ball, you know what I mean? And I'm a head junior college coach. Like, who am I? There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, man. And at the end of the day, it's about getting the job done. Yeah, for sure. So, in fact, one of our catchers last year who caught a lot, he was talking to me at the end of the season. He goes, I think I might want to go knees up next year. And I'm like, perfect. And he's kind of making that, call on himself. So we'll see. We'll see how the fall. We haven't practiced yet, so we'll see how that goes.
But how often do you see that? He thinks that's a good thing, so he's going to be invested in it. He probably comes back on 2 feet and probably is gangbusters because that was his idea.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, anytime you get ownership in that decision-making process, it's important. Yeah.
When are you setting roles for players, or is it fluid throughout the year?
Setting roles like
who's starting, who's not starting, who's on the bench. Is it fluid throughout the year?
I think we kind of establish those roles after fall. Kind of, like we have exit meetings. I'm big on doing exit meetings every semester. Even when we came back from having a really good year, we still had exit meetings with every single guy. I want the returning players to know, hey, this is where we see you. I think that communication is important. And so I think after fall, having those exit meetings are important. And it could be, hey, you're neck and neck, or you're right behind, Ryan or Joe or whatever. And just so that they know where they stand, I think it's important. And sometimes they're tough conversations, but I think players, I know I always appreciate being honest, being talked to that way. And yeah, they're tough conversations, but I think that's the right way to do it.
Do you have them fill anything out? You have them fill anything out about their fall? Or is it just what you see?
Sometimes I've done that before, like a survey, write down the starting rotation or the starting lineup. I've done that too. But I haven't done it in the last few, 2 or 3 years. And then
whatever you're doing, keep doing. You don't need it. Whatever you're doing right now, stay with it.
Yeah. But you're right. You get in the season and then some guys don't do well. And so then you have to give other people opportunities and you have to stay ready, and all that. So it's always kind of moving around.
What did Jack Hodges mean to your career?
Man, he gave me an opportunity, he was a great mentor, very intelligent guy. I mean, Stanford, played football and baseball at Stanford. And I grew up in the Bay Area. Like Stanford was that's where I really wanted to go. But in the 90s, a 3.2 doesn't get you into Stanford, so I had to go to plan B and C and all that stuff. But, man, I didn't know anybody in Southern California. I went to UC Riverside, but I didn't know anybody over here in Mission Viejo. And he gave me a chance to work with his catchers. And I got a chance to hit in the cages to get ready for spring training. And then had arm surgery and got released, all that stuff. And he brought me on and just gave me an opportunity and was, I think, a good mentor, very cerebral, intelligent. And it made me kind of stop and think before just reacting. I saw him, how calm he was. He was always pretty calm. And I really appreciate that. Okay, let's handle this situation. Just take a step back and be calm about it. Yeah.
How did he connect with you?
What do you mean?
How did you all get connected?
I just so when I was at Riverside, there was a player who came in after me. He was a catcher, and my wife is from Dana Point. And so, and I'm like, okay, junior college, the closest area, that's Saddleback. And so this kid played at Saddleback, and I said, hey, can you text coach and see if, and that's how it kind of got started. And he said yes. And so I introduced myself, and yeah, next thing you know, it all kind of worked out. But yeah, he was a good mentor for sure.
You're a national champion. How similar is to what you're doing with your team as to what you guys were doing at Riverside in 1994?
I think it's very similar. I think a lot of the things we did at Riverside were like application, like doing things, competing in practice competition, even in junior college too, at San Jose City College. We played a game called 2-ball where you got 2 pitches. That was it. And it forced contact, it forced game speed reps. And so, yeah, a lot of that's similar. I think anytime you can put players to play and practice at game speed is great, because you're going to see the more they get comfortable at that speed, it becomes automatic, and then the game's great. This is easy, because I've been practicing this hard every day, and games are fun. And the games, you put on a hit and run or a bunt, but like I let them play. When guy strikes out, I don't tell him. I just try to it hurts, and you're like, oh my gosh, that was a tough situation right there. But you just kind of you kind of just let it go. That's the test. You gotta let them take the test.
Have you always been that way? We're just letting them go out and do it?
No, I think it's learned. I think from Jack too. But the game's so hard. Baseball's hard. And no one's trying to make a mistake. No one's trying to make an error. No one's trying to strike out. And I remember that as a player. I'll never forget, we're playing Long Beach State when I'm in college, and we're they were top. This is when Cal State Fullerton and Long Beach State were good in the early '90s, and we're it's tied or something. And we had a first round pick thrown, and I'm catching them, and so the games, they bring their left-hander closer in, Gabe Gonzalez, who I ended up playing with in the Marlins organization. And they bring in Gabe, and I forget, it's first and third, and one out. And then Coach Smitherin, the coach at the time, calls a timeout. And I'm like, what's he going to tell me? He brings me down. He goes, hey, whatever you do, don't hit into a double play. And I'm like, what? Why would you tell me that?
Reverse psychology on you.
He goes, hey, whatever you do, you can strike out, you can do whatever, just don't hit into a double play. So it's a 3-1 count. I get a fastball right in the middle. I hit a one hopper to shortstop. Game over. And he was so mad. And I love him. I love Coach to death, But I told myself, I'll never say that to a kid.
Yes.
No matter what you do, don't strike out or don't hit into a double play.
Well, that's the whole, your brain doesn't register negative.
Yeah.
So if you say not in there, your brain can't even register the word not. So you basically just told that person to do that.
And it's the kid, I hit the ball hard, hit around the button, and some things just don't happen, don't work that way. But so I just, I think you let them play, and you take notes, and you kind of bring it up when the emotions are, you're in a better state to hear and listen and to be coachable. Yeah.
What do you feel like championship teams and players do differently than teams that don't win championships?
I think the attention to detail. I think my coaching staff, and we really, we touch bases with our right foot. We do little things, and I think, and we got to find guys that can buy in and do the little things. The attention to detail is important. Now we're not always perfect on it, but I think that's the message. We try to hold them to a high standard, and ourselves as coaches too. And I just think that attention to detail is important. Yeah. Cause we're trying to get them ready for a bigger, faster game. And D1s and D2s, and D3s, they want guys that can step right in. They don't have to teach them all over again, so yeah, I think the attention to detail is important. And I think you have to have obviously structure, but you have to hold kids accountable. And so we try to keep that structure so they know what the practice schedule is every day, what's expected of them. I think that's important.
I still think this generation wants to be held accountable.
I agree. I think
that's a terrible narrative out there. I think people, they're just not around kids enough. I think with social media, you see this. I still think kids want to be held accountable.
They do. They do. And they want to hold each other accountable. They do. Especially when you're playing a team thing, a team environment, team sport. You need to have that structure and that accountability, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Did you know how good the Orange Empire was before you got into it as a coach?
Yeah. Yes.
You knew.
Because
you had played junior college baseball in Northern California, so you knew.
We came down one fall, and it was we wanted to play Cypress. Pick had it going good, for so many years, and it's all right, let's see how we do against Cerritos. Let's see how we do against Cypress. I think we played Saddleback too. We played Riverside. Like we played the big dudes, and we actually did well. It's fall scrimmage, but we came back thinking like, dang, we're going to be pretty good. My sophomore, 9 guys on our team played professional baseball, but we were never healthy or eligible at the same time. So we were never on the field. So, Chris Gritto played in the big leagues, and so, we just couldn't put it all together at San Jose City, but we were good. We were a talented group. Yeah. But we knew like, this is where you calm down. You play these guys down here for sure.
You spoke at our 2018 Barnstormers, so that film's still running around somewhere, and I loved you talking about the lower half and getting in and staying into your legs.
Yes.
Is that still a big key for you with hitters?
Yeah.
Staying in their legs? For
sure. Yep. I think you can tell a difference between an incoming freshman kid and a returning player. I just think everyone talks about using legs to hit, and I think what we interpret that is like rotational movement. I think a lot of kids, we were taught back in the day to squish the bug and all that stuff. And
I was not. I was around Charlie Lau and Walt Reniak.
Oh, okay.
My back foot was as far off the ground as you could get it.
Good. I mean,
it's great. Like if I was not big like Frank Thomas, but you could superimpose some of Frank Thomas's back foot and how high it was off the ground, and my back foot how high it got off the ground.
Wow.
On certain pitches.
That's impressive.
Crazy.
But yeah, I think just staying in your legs and transferring weight from that backside to the front side, and I think that's important for sure. We still really talk about that, and getting kids to understand what it feels like, and instead of being so rotational, because then the front side leaks out. And now our conference, we have a lot of guys that throw power sliders and they can spin it. And if you're pulling out, that front hip's gone, you're in trouble. You're going to see a lot of that. So
I think the hard part for hitters and feeling that is that they feel so strong the other way that they think they think that's a good thing, feeling that strong in their legs.
Yeah.
And you lose so much athleticism and barrel control and explosiveness that way. But they feel much stronger down there, but it's just not efficient. It's not explosive.
You're right. And they can hit a BP fastball down the line to left field, every day. Oh, look how good I am. And then it's like, okay, well, it's different when, for sure.
How much are you communicating with your parents?
My baseball parents or my actual parents?
Your baseball parents. I mean, we could get into the personal side.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, actually not at all.
You don't communicate much with your incoming parents at all?
No.
Good for you.
It's good and bad. Like there's so many times I've had so many great kids. I call them kids. They're young men, but so many good people. We've got really good people in our program. And the good thing is we get the fall to kind of weed them out too. Okay. Like if they're not a fit, okay, go find somewhere else. But we get great kids. And there's so many times we've made the playoffs. I don't know how many years in a row, a lot, right? And I just want to tell the parents, like, hey, you've raised a great son, And so when we have these deep playoff runs, you kind of come across more and more parents. And I just want to tell them, like, your son is just a fine young man. And, I really enjoyed the time with him and just thanking him for raising a good kid. That's really what I want to tell him. I don't really have playing time issues. High school was brutal. It was tough. High school coaches have it tough. And it's like having an administrator support you in high school. That was challenging as well because they're freaked out about the parents too. At this level, they're over 18. It's actually illegal for me to talk to a parent. It's the ed code. It's illegal to talk to a parent if they're over 18 in junior college and college in general. So, just to really thank them for raising good kids. Yeah.
Do you think some of that too is you have them in the summertime for a while where it alleviates some of that because you already had quite a bit of contact with their son before they actually start school?
Yeah, I think that it definitely helps develop that relationship and having that contact with them. I think, yeah. Um, I think also, I think parents realize, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I think generally speaking, they think, well, hey, you're in college now. Now you've got to
You'd be
kind of man up.
surprised.
I know, I know.
My daughter's an
Better knock
RA at
on wood.
UNC. My daughter's an RA at UNCG. She's a sophomore, but she's running the upper class dorm
Okay.
area. She had a junior mother yell at her the other day during check-in. During
Oh my
check-in.
God.
Now, it was good for my daughter. She needs to hear. She hadn't really been yelled at a whole lot, so it was good for my daughter. My daughter's actually figuring out what actual work is now. But that was her. I was like, "How's moving going?" She goes, "I had a junior mother yell at me about something. Like, she's crazy. Her daughter's a junior in college.
Wow. So what's that? I mean, she's got to be 20, right?
At least might be 21.
Yeah.
But again, that's the girl, the son or the daughter that ends up at home when they're 30 years old. I'll tell you, I was at Iowa. We had an incoming kid from Kirkwood Community College. He was a draft. He'd already been in junior college. And they came in for a football fall weekend against Michigan State, and it was packed. And first weekend, they move in. We have our first team meeting, and he had a roommate who was also a junior college transfer. He said, "Hey, coach, so-and-so's stuff's already packed up out of his apartment." I said, "Oh, we haven't even started."
Yeah.
So I call the mom. I say, "Hey, what's going on?" She goes, "He's overwhelmed." I'm like, "We just started school."
Yeah.
I go, "You guys came in for Michigan State football game this fall and like saw what this was like." I'm like, "We haven't even started yet." She goes, "I just hope God's will be done. He's moving back home." I said, "You call me when he's 30 and he still lives in your house." And you know where he was when he was 30?
No way.
Still in the house.
Wow.
I said, "You got to cut the cord on this one." But
Yeah.
I've got a few of those over the year. I don't tell too many of those stories, but
That's interesting.
yeah, you would be surprised. Like it's still around.
Yeah.
But eventually you have to let your child grow up. I think that's the hardest part now for parents is, whether they're living vicariously through their kids because it didn't really work out for them, or they're just too scared to let them get out into the world. But I think at some point you're going to have to do that for them and get out of their way, because if you don't, you're inhibiting their growth as a human. Because eventually you're not going to be able to do it for them. They're going to have to, I think the earlier the better, they need to learn how to do it for themselves.
100%.
And it's painful. I mean, I've got a 21-year-old and 19-year-old. It is painful as a parent to eventually just let them go. But I think as a parent too, once you do that and you see that they're going to be fine, like there's some bumps, but they're going to be fine, I think it makes your life a heck of a lot easier as a parent then too.
I 100% agree. I've got a 19 and 20-year-old daughters. Yeah. And getting them to kind of grow up and kind of figure things out,
I think it's more tough on mom than it is on dad.
Yes.
I think it's way more tough on mom.
Yeah. But we just had our first meeting yesterday, and it's like, hey, you guys are 18. You're old enough to go to war, right? To go in the military. And again, we're in college and you're playing a sport, but like you guys need to start manning up and handling your own business. Like mom and dad shouldn't be checking your schedule, making appointments for you to see the counselor. Like this is your career, and nobody else's. So let's start taking care of business.
And for you as a human being, like you gain confidence off that. Once you're able to start taking care of your own stuff, you start to build confidence off that.
Yeah, I agree. You can do it yourself. You can handle tasks, and you can. Yeah, I think you're right. It's important.
Many of your guys have private instructors. They have swing coaches or pitching coaches away from y'all.
Yeah, I think we have. I mean, being in Southern California, there's a lot of things going on. There's different compounds in different places. Some of them go to different places for training. We just want to be in the same loop. Like I want to understand, what are you working on? What is he telling you? Like, what are you working on? And why? And if you can't answer that for me, then we got a problem. And then I also tell them, because I've been a private instructor too, and seeing a kid once a week is different than seeing somebody every day. Like I'm seeing you every day, and you're not paying me. Like I'm here. I want the best, what's best for you too. I want to see you play in the big leagues. I want to, and so I want you to help us win. So, I try to have that open conversation too, where like, what's going on? This is what we see. But like developing that trust takes time, right? Like, yeah.
I think where it comes to play is especially with your freshmen, because they're going to struggle. And obviously they've had an instructor before they've gotten to you, and that instructor, obviously they got to you for a reason because they're a good player. But every freshman, whether it's pitcher or hitter, is going to struggle at some point. So it's obviously easy. I always called it running back to mama. That was more about mechanics than anything else with pitchers and hitters. I was like, hey, don't run back to mama. Like, you're starting to make some changes here. Don't run back to mama. Like, you're going to go backwards here for a little bit. Don't run back to mama just because it's a little uncomfortable. But I think it's the same thing with those freshmen with their private instructor. Now, it also is a good thing that maybe they get away from them for a little bit, and maybe they're still trying to figure some things out, and then go back with some fresh set of eyes and maybe see some things. So I see both sides of that, and I think you see it that, well, Gavin Lux is a good example with the Dodgers. He'd really been struggling. Now, he was hurt too, but his uncle, Augie, is a Wisconsin legend, played in the big leagues, but that was his hitting coach his entire life. He went home for break and comes back from All-Star break, and now he's raking. So like you can kind of see it, but that's also a family member that kind of raised him as a human being and a hitter. Up in shout out to Racine, Wisconsin, and the hitters facility. So RJ Ferguson and Augie and those guys up there in Racine. But so like you see both sides of it, but I think it's more than anything where freshmen start to struggle and they want to go back to that pacifier a little bit, and somebody that's going to tell them how good they're doing, where your college coach is not always going to do that for you. They're going to tell you what you need to do to get better and help us win games. Sure. Where somebody back home just wants you to be happy and is going to tell you what you want to hear.
And sometimes that, like the psychology of that's good too, right? Like getting that confidence back. Oh, I always hit good with Coach whatever, and it's like, okay. But I had a young man, very gifted, talented athlete, and he'd never struggled. Like this guy is such a good athlete, and he led our team in hitting in the fall, and then the season started and he started struggling. Like it looked like he was swinging a broomstick, and the ball, it just, and so I asked him, I go, have you ever struggled before? And he's like, I've never been through anything like this before. And I said, well, do you want help getting out of it? And he's like, I don't know, and so he eventually came around. He texted me on a Sunday. We hit on Monday, I was never that good an athlete, where
I struggled way before college.
Yeah.
I had worked through that. I had worked through that way before college.
Yeah. Myself included. Yeah. And so it was good for him to kind of reach out and to get some help. But yeah, I think sometimes,
now, was it mechanical or mental for him?
It was a combination. Like, he's very fast twitch. And so, which, center fielder type body, or middle infielder type body. And you look at those guys, like sometimes like their hips, and they're so quick to pull off the baseball that it's hard for them to let the ball get deep. And so that was part of it. And then part of it was like seeing the ball deeper, let the ball travel. He'd see the breaking ball early and then start swinging and it'd bounce. And it's like, well, did you even see it? He goes, I don't even know, so, but it was good. It was a good experience, but,
that's that double-edged sword because they are fast twitch.
Yes.
So it doesn't take much time for the barrel to get into the zone, but they have to get comfortable with letting the ball get to them.
Yeah. And they have to be confident. So I think, earning that trust, with the players, like, hey, we're here to help facilitate. We're here to make you better. That's important. And then I'm older now, like I'm in my 50s, and sometimes they gravitate towards the younger coaches, which is kind of a bummer because I love cage time, but now being the head coach, I gotta make sure they're eligible, just all the other stuff you have to deal with. And I really like spending time in the cages and coaching. Yeah. So
do you have a fail forward moment, something you thought was going to set you back, but looking back now, it helped you move forward?
Ooh.
Your arm injury in pro ball? Is that a fail forward moment?
Yeah.
It could be personal, it could be professional. Everybody's got to answer this one question.
Yeah, I fail forward. I think, I knew I was, I was one of those, I was a late draft pick. I wasn't like a prospect. I was a suspect.
How late? What round?
I think 27th round,
which is still good by those days. Like people don't, there was probably 100 rounds back in those days.
Yeah, in '94.
Yeah, there was 100 rounds, so a 27th rounder was actually pretty good back then.
Yeah. Somebody told me, "Oh, you're a 20th rounder." I go, "Oh, that's not too bad." And then I realized, I looked, I'm like, "Oh, 27th." Whatever. Hey, man, I was happy. I just wanted an opportunity, to sign whatever. But yeah, I think I knew I was going to be a coach. I've got 2 younger brothers, and I kind of helped them growing up, and I really liked coaching, and I just felt like I was trying to learn. I got a chance to go to big league spring training one year, and it was the year of the strike, the scab year, where guys were jumping over, and after that whole thing settled down, I got invited to big league camp, and I was just there, like trying to pick up as much as I could. It was just, I love spring training. I love seeing all like the big league guys and all these big league coaches, and just like picking their brain. And I was trying to just absorb as much as I could.
What was the biggest thing that stuck out about big league spring training?
Man, boy, there was a lot. Just how like big and physical everybody was. Like, I remember the first time catching Rob Nin. It was a closer, had a number of good years in the big leagues, and I'm in the bullpen. We're playing the Royals, and I'm down there with like Bob Nadel and Steve Decker. I think it's Steve. But so I was like this, there to catch pens essentially, and I pull out my bullpen glove, and they're like, "Hey, I don't think I'd use that old glove catching Rob Nin." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he was getting loose, and it was like 90 easy, and all of a sudden he goes, "Okay, here we go." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And it was cutting at 90 plus, mid 90. Yeah, I was like, "Holy cow!" Like everybody was just faster, stronger. Like, yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, but it was a great experience for sure. Yeah.
With your kinesiology background, are you working out still?
Yeah, I try to. Yeah.
What are your routines? I love it. This I always ask this one too, because I like that. This is like a question for me personally, because I like to work out. So I always like asking people any of their morning or evening routines, what they like getting cranked out throughout the day.
Yeah. So I'm buddies with the cross country coach who's a little younger than me. So we work out. He has this whole. We found this thing online, like the buff dudes workout, but we kind of modify it for the old guy, and then we kind of just add, and we kind of add and subtract stuff, and so we'll do like different body parts, different days. What I should be doing is a little bit probably more cardio, because I am getting older.
I just can't, man. I cannot.
I know.
The treadmill's a warm up. It's a 2-minute warm up in the beginning, and then I can't. I like HIIT stuff. I'll get cardio in by the strength training, the tempo that I work at, the different exercises I work at. I'm getting my cardio that way.
Yeah.
I just can't. I can't do it. I know why people do it. I think there's some really good mental health components from checking out on a bike or a treadmill or going out for a run. Like, I think there's some really good mental health components to that. But
oh, for sure.
I'm trying to be efficient with my time.
Yeah. So we'll do like, push and pull stuff. Yeah, it's kind of basic.
I'm a big push and pull guy. Whether it's upper body or lower body, I'm a big push pull guy.
Yeah. And then I need hip replacement surgery on both hips. So I do this whole glute work now, and it's so far, I've gotten a couple cortisone shots, but so far it's like I got to get older before I can get them replaced.
Yep.
That's what I'm
well,
trying.
yeah, because the likelihood of having to get it done again is the earlier you get. Like I think that's the thing they're always concerned with is the earlier you get it done, they're going to have to probably go in and redo it.
20 years, I think was what I've been told from my doctors, and I don't want to be 72 getting it done. I might not wake up or whatever, So
did your daughters play sports growing up?
We tried every sport, basketball, tennis, baseball, and they were dancers. Yeah,
that's a sport for me. My daughter. Was in,
for sure.
Anybody thinks dancing's not like. Especially the competitive dance. Were they in competitive dance or just?
They were. Yep. Yeah. They were really big into Russian ballet. It couldn't be American ballet, Dad. It's got to be Russian ballet. And
well, yeah. Anybody seen the Nutcracker knows Russian ballet is where it's at. Tchaikovsky.
Man, I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of Nutcrackers. Yeah, a lot. Multiple times a year. Yeah, because they had different roles, and you got to go the second night because they had a different role that night. And so, but it was good. It kept them. It taught them a lot of discipline. Yeah. Like those girls, those ladies, like their feet. There's a lot of stress on their feet and ankles. And the problem is, my daughters are 6 feet tall, and so you don't see too many Russian ballerinas that are 6 feet tall, and they got to pick a guy up, and and vice versa. There's different, So. Or they have to be picked up, right? And so anyway, they were big dancers, and now they're into yoga and
I love yoga. Love it.
Yeah, I wish I had gotten into it younger.
Me too. It really wasn't around. I mean, Southern Indiana growing up, like I guarantee there was not a yoga studio in Evansville, Indiana when I was growing up. So I wish I would have found it though later on because I gravitate towards a lot of that stuff from a personal standpoint.
For sure. Yep.
So I do really like it and really dove into it at the back end of my career at Iowa and then was full bore into it when I got to Western Illinois. And so was able to do a lot of really cool things with our team and then also personally with yoga. Yeah,
that's good. I think it's funny how everyone talks about mobility now, hip mobility, and a lot of it's yoga movements, and I wish, like I know our strength training program has a lot of mobility in it, and so I wish that was more of a push, back in the late 80s and 90s and stuff.
And learning your breath too. Like I think that's a big component of it is syncing your movements up with your breathing. That I think all athletes need that, and it's a great way to just check out when you need to. It's a phenomenal way to put the phone down and just check out for a while. Yeah, and it's good for the mental side of sports. Like Ken Revisa was Cal State Fullerton. Revisa, I have some family friends that are Revisas, and they felt the same. But he was local, and man, his books we talk about the breath and using your breath and. It's an important part to slow your heart rate down. And what are some final thoughts before I let you go? Man, I'm excited for another school year. Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of. I love going to the coaches conventions too. I think when you stop learning, you should get out of coaching or stop wanting to learn. Like if I can learn something and teach it in a better way to help someone. Like that's what it's all about, so I love trying to pick stuff up, and I really appreciate you having me on. And, I feel like, spreading the word to the kids and trying to talk to other coaches is what it's all about, and trying to, help young men get better. So I'm excited about this year. What is your career fall record against Scott Laverty? It's not good. His guys, I don't know, because they're older. I think they're a little bit more mature. That's a big one. I mean, it was always scary in the fall when you played junior college teams because you knew if you didn't play well, but you knew if you could just kind of hang in there for a little bit,
Yeah.
If you could just hang in there for a little bit, you knew just because the guys were older and stronger, like eventually once you got down the line on the pitching, like you're gonna start scoring some runs. But it still is like it's baseball, so if you don't play well, you're gonna get beat that day.
Yes. We Scott obviously runs a great program, right? Chapman University, but so we play 18 innings, and his guys are like throwing 3-2 hammers, and it's early October. It's like we haven't even seen a curveball yet, and his pitchers are just so mature and filling up the zone, and then we usually kick the ball around a little bit at times, and but we play every year, and I love playing. I try to play the best competition we can. I mean, Scott's done such a great job there, at Chapman. So it's like I really appreciate him playing us every fall. And
you play other 4-year schools too?
Yeah, I try. Yeah, we play Concordia University, Vanguard University. I think we've got Point Loma in January scheduled.
Love it. Well, it's twofold. It's good for your guys because you get to see 4-year schools.
Yes.
But it's also great for the 4-year schools because they're going to be able to see some junior college guys play against their own guys. That's why I loved playing junior colleges in the fall. Because, one, you could actually see junior college players play against 4-year guys. We ended up getting some really good junior college transfers because of that. Because I think it's really hard as a 4-year coach because you're watching high school guys all summer.
Yes.
And then you go watch JC guys in the fall. So just because you've been watching high school guys all summer, JC guys are going to stick out regardless. Whether they're good or not or good enough to play for you, I think that acclimation period, it's like pro scouts that go do pro coverage. I think it's good for their eyes to go watch professional baseball players because they've been watching high school and college guys all spring. I think it's the same. I felt like it was the same thing that we were able to watch JUCO guys play against our own guys, and we got some really good players because of that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate playing them. I mean, you're trying to figure out what you have too, and to play against some older, competitive programs. I think it
makes your job easier as a coach because they're going to get challenged.
Yeah.
And so, they're going to get challenged against older guys. So let's see how they handle it. But then it allows you to go back and say, hey, here's what we need to work on. This is the level you're trying to get to. Here are the things that we need to work on to allow you to be able to get to that level.
Yeah. And sometimes we beat them or it's like real close,
And then you get a little confidence off that too.
Yes. Yeah.
For sure.
And it's like, oh, dang, we could be pretty good, and so that's it's good.
Sommer, thanks for your time, man. This is awesome.
Hey, Ryan, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
One of my favorites, so appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed it.